We'll give everybody a minute to come in here.
While we're doing that, I'll get this back.
Wow, look at that form.
Thank you. I was trained by the greatest.
That'd be really unfortunate if you dropped it right there.
It would be.
You'd cry 3D printed tears.
So one of the things I've kind of noticed that's going to be included in the review is these feet always fall off, which is a little silly.
I say that sounds kind of lame.
Yeah. Well, the stability on this is a little questionable at times.
To say the least.
Obviously, it's an extremely violent machine as is. One of the things I will say with the Prusa Core 1s, one of the things you got to give to them, they use a steel frame. Now, granted, that makes the printer something like 40 to 60 pounds, but obviously, shaking all over the place, that added weight actually helps.
Oh, we got our first viewer in, Tyler.
Oh boy.
Yep, we're still getting set up over here.
Hard hat, just in case. You never know.
Yeah, we might take damage.
Oh, I forgot, I do have one right here.
Let me let people know we're live.
On the side, so I can actually reach the spools, can be nice. One of those things where I shouldn't have to, but, you know, make do with what you got.
Yep.
So we'll let the folks come on in for a little longer. I'll say hi, tell them what we're doing.
Setting up for an epic 3D print.
Oh, it's going to be so wild.
So what kind of patch are you making today?
I'm just going to do the standard P-square.
Oh, very nice. Oh, we got 12 viewers already.
Oh, 12 already?
Yeah,
Right.
12 viewers already. Like that. So I guess we have enough people here to tell them what we're doing.
All right.
We're printing some patch today.
Yep. So are you filming on the big camera?
I'm filming on both cameras right now. Hey, what's up, COD X Mobile Guy? How you doing?
COD Mobile.
Do you know COD Mobile Guy, Tyler?
Do I know?
Is he a fan?
Unless it's Gavin, but I don't know.
Well, COD Mobile Guy, you're in for a treat today. We're 3D printing some patches for the first time. Johnny Bravo saying, what are you guys doing?
3D printing.
Johnny Bravo, Tyler got a new 3D printer here, replacing that old dinosaur, and he's trying to make some homemade patches like that.
Then fine selection right here.
So it's his first time, he's going to be troubleshooting, I guess, how it goes. You got all those colors and stuff. But you should check him out on Instagram, Printed Performance. He makes all types of stuff like that. So this is noteworthy because there's a lot of troubleshooting that goes in on the first day, right, Tyler?
Within reason. One of the things I will say, it's been a nice quality of life improvement with the K1, and in this case the K1 Max. Not exclusive to this, but definitely, at least compared to, as you know, I have the Ender 3, and right next to you is my Ender 5.
Shout out right there, oddly specific with the OG.
Yeah.
We got Preppy spam in the chat. Hi, Preppy. How you doing?
Hi. So I would say, in terms of just out of the box being able to print, it is a significant quality of life improvement. Yeah, right here is the Ender 3 S1. Now it took maybe like half an hour to get it going, get it tested. Of course, as you can, still got the old school screws and stuff. This one has the dual Z screws. But you still have to do, when you first get out of the box, you still got to, you're supposed to use a feeler gauge. I just use a business card. It doesn't.
Oh, we got some questions rolling in,
already?
Tyler. Yeah, well, first let's shout out COD Mobile Guys and his friends just started 3D printing some toys for his kids.
Oh, sweet.
So I guess they can print up whatever toys they want. That's pretty cool. And Johnny Bravo is asking, how much does a whole setup cost if somebody's interested in getting started?
A whole setup for printing?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so there's a few things you have to consider. And this might sound a little silly, but depending on how in-depth you're going, the printer is going to be the cheap part. But just starting on the printer, Over there is my original Ender 3. I think it was at the time maybe $200, maybe a little less, maybe 150.
That's this thing over in the corner, right?
Yeah.
Couple $100.
Yeah, like one of the reasons why the Ender 3 was the go-to one for people starting out and stuff was it was the cheapest 3D printer that wouldn't catch fire. It's the best way I could describe it.
There you go.
I will say I've had it for years. You will become very good at troubleshooting from running it. It's not fun. I'm not gonna lie to you. Am I a better person for doing it? Do I know more? Yes. Was it miserable when it's like 10 at night and you're trying to get something to print because you need it tomorrow? It was rough. That being said, I got this.
Shout out Preppy to you. We'll get you next. Don't worry, Preppy.
Yes, of course. This one's the Ender 3S1. At the time, it was going for $200-300 depending on where you ordered it from. I got it on the Micro Center deal where it was only basically like $200, which at the time was $100 off, which was pretty sweet. So once again, with the original 3, I have probably spent more time and money replacing parts than the actual cost of the machine. Cost of the machine. Whereas this one, I've been very fortunate. We also have one at work, exact same model and everything, and it's a little iffy at times, but it's not really let me down.
So we are getting another request, Tyler, from Preppy, and if you don't want to do it, I'll do it. He's asking for a quick dance. Okay, now he's cooking.
So,
all right, get back to printing.
So I got this for $200. And honestly, for someone who's just wants to dip their toes in,
do you have any samples or maybe anything that you can show them that you printed with that?
I mean, this is one of the early TPUs.
Oh, you made a little octopus.
Like I think it was COD guy.
It's squishy too. Show me it's squishy.
Yeah. This is a fun little thing. Honestly, most of my stuff.
So you don't got to spend big money to get started.
Yeah, like
Johnny Bravo.
Like I'd say the main thing with this one was on my 5, but actually, you know what? If I can find it. Because the original prototype of that.
By the way, we got 4 printers on here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, and actually we got a 2D printer right there. So we're in a room with 5 printers right now.
So I don't have it on hand, but the original version of this was printed on my Ender 3. And I mean, once again, the main drawback with these the more old bed slingers or low tech bed slingers or last gen, if you will, like if this is a PS5, this is a PS4, this is a PS3.
Yeah, we do have Little Penny J asking which one works the best. I would hope the newest one works the best, right? Is that true?
I wouldn't disagree. I don't have enough hours behind this to give you a solid answer. I will say, of the few prints I have done, I have been very impressed. Right out of the gate, in terms of speed, you cannot beat a Core XY. The 5 was my fastest at the time, but that's only like if it took 2 hours on here, it would take an hour and a half on here. This one, it takes maybe 30-40 minutes. It's because you can run something crazy like 200 millimeters a second with PETG.
Oh, we got Order the Slop in the chat asking, can you print US dollars?
Could I?
You can try.
Would anyone accept it? Probably not. Although personally, I think more interesting would be like a Mustang billet shift knob. Maybe we could do a little collab if you know anyone.
Oh, we got another comment. Please stop yelling to Alex.
No.
Yeah, Alex, I can barely hear him, so.
Alex, there's a little button on the side of your phone that lowers the volume. I know it's a foreign concept, but anyway, back to the printers. So in terms of speed, this thing has been very impressive. I wasn't not excited, but I'd say like I wasn't going crazy when we went to go get this, I mostly got this because I knew it was time to upgrade. After just running a couple prints, I am thoroughly impressed. You know, it's one of those things where you're not necessarily going to understand the difference until you actually see it in action. You know, where's the Benji?
Yep. We got one more question, Tyler. We got Little Penny's wondering, does it get less accurate if you go faster?
So, I won't say no.
And I'll add one more layer to that question. Do the higher quality printers like the K1 Max, do they lose less efficiency? Are they more accurate when you go faster?
Let me see if I have a golf.
Maybe I worded that wrong.
No, it makes some sense. Actually, I printed a golf ball as a test. I do not recall where I put it.
Johnny Bravo's got to go. No problem, Johnny. Happy to help you out.
It was nice seeing you.
If you got any more questions, make sure to comment them below. This guy knows a ton of stuff about 3D printers.
Yeah.
If you couldn't tell from his 4 3D printers.
So I would say, you know, I don't have the test model that I printed on this because I put it on something. But you know, this is what I call it the golf ball. This takes about 3-4 hours on this machine, whereas it took about an hour and a half from it. I think actually it clocked in at 72 minutes plus another 10 minutes to do calibration. But you know, realistically, it took like a third of the time. It took a third of the time to run on this one, and honestly, I couldn't tell the difference between the two. If you're going, so kind of getting back to this Benchy right here, just a little side tangent. For those of you who don't know, the Benchy is the benchmark test. It's a relatively, I won't say difficult, but it's definitely a challenge to get it perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Right out the box, you know, I think it looks really good. This printed at like 16-20 minutes. On this machine over here, it took about, honestly, I think it was like 22, maybe 30. On this machine, it took about like 40 minutes.
Ouch. That's brutal. 40 minutes.
Now, I will say, if you're going crazy fast, you know, like these printers claim they can do something like 500, 600 millimeters a second. You are not going to get quality. But I will say, you know, with these two, I usually, you know, PETG standard recommendations are something like 50, 60 millimeters per second. You know, obviously you can crank it up a little. Of course, you know, play around. Like I always just every once in a while I just kick it up. You know, 100% speed, 105, 110. I think like the fastest I go just playing around was like 150 or something, and it still ran fine.
We got a lot of questions in chat here.
Oh.
Well, first we got Logan saying, "Bro, you looking big," or well, he put muscle emojis. I'm gonna say he's looking big. So there you go. Word of the Slops asking, "Can I counterfeit Funko Pops with these?" I would say you could try. You could definitely try Word of the Slop. I don't know how far you'd get. CMC is saying, "Have you been able to 3D print a girlfriend?" Little Penny J is asking, "How long was the out-of-the-box calibration and setup?" Well, actually, Little Penny, we just did a live stream on that. It was probably about, 2 hours? Tyler was really slow at it, and it said in the box it was supposed to take a half hour, so...
So, yeah, if you go by the, let's put it this way. If you are just going straight in, you know, not goofing around, you can have this done in half an hour, ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I spent, you know, we're live streaming it. I was yapping. I was wandering.
Yeah, this guy ordered a Yappuccino. Speaking of which, we're supposed to be troubleshooting printing 3D patches for the first time.
Well, you know, someone decided.
And here we are ordering a Yappuccino.
I'm sorry. Who wanted to engage with the chat?
That's me.
Anyway, so
if you guys didn't know, Mr. POV here.
So
camera guy today.
To our friend. This one. MSRP $900.
Ouch.
At Micro Center, it was on sale for $700. Now I've also seen that price online, so it's one of those games of how much is it really. But I would say, you know, obviously, 200. You know, I think the V3s are out now. We'll say 200-300 versus 700 to 900.
Yeah, Little Penny saying you're going too slow. Start with the patches.
Well, you know, stop asking questions. I don't know what to tell you. But you know, I would say if you can invest the extra coin, definitely spring for the for Core XY.
Honestly, just buy the one that has the color changing stuff on it.
Yeah, sure.
It's like
fine,
twice as much money.
$1,500.
Yeah. Yeah. If anybody's thinking about buying this or the, what is it, the K2 Max?
The K2, yeah, that's the 1,500.
Yeah, just buy the K2 Max at this point. I don't know why he wasted $700 on this when he should have just bought the one that's twice as much.
I mean, I don't know why I didn't buy a Jeep with a 392.
It's because you can't get a two-door one.
That sounds like cope.
Oh, that's true.
Anywho,
There he is.
one of the main quality of life things, if you're not, you know, I consider myself a big DIY guy. Sometimes it's, you know, not necessarily because I'm cheap, but because I'm stubborn. And if anyone's going to mess it up, it's going to be me. I'm not going to pay someone to mess it up. But I would say the best, I think it's a good way to put it. If you are not mechanically inclined, I'd say, you might be better off getting, you know, a machine like that. If you come here, Chris, we'll turn it on. Actually, you got lights on there.
Mm-hmm. What are we looking at here?
Well, you see, you got the 3 Z screws, and there's actually a load cell.
What happened here? Looks like he made a mess already.
Oh, you're supposed to use glue.
He's gluing it.
I mean, if you look in the back, it says apply glue before use.
Let's see if we can fit that.
Yeah, you want me to put the top?
No, that's fine.
But yeah, one of the nice things is this has true auto bed leveling. You know, this one has adjustments, but you still have to do the first run by hand.
We're gonna be making these patches.
These bad boys. Excuse me.
Well, I guess first thing you need to do to make a patch is have a computer with a file on it, right?
So that gets into why I say the printer is the cheap part. Now you can get a Fusion personal use license, Fusion 360, for free. It's kind of limited in what you like. I'd say that is for the folks who just want to occasionally make stuff, you know, but more often than not are just going to use the you gotta get out of that chair. I need that chair.
You need that chair.
That's my working
use
chair.
that chair. I'm
You
already
use
filming.
that chair. You're filming.
I'm already filming on it. Yeah, exactly. I gotta move around and stuff. All you have to do is sit there and turn the laptop on.
See, I'm doing actual work here. You can just sit there and film. But anywho, so a Fusion license, you can get a personal license. That's well, it's free. You are limited to a certain number of active files, you know, active project files. So if you're doing something intricate like a robot, you might run up against that. Now, you don't have to delete the files, but it does require you to archive them, which can be annoying, to say the least. My computer. You know, is it that big of a deal? I'm not going to argue one way or the other. It really depends on what you're doing.
But as far as patches, it wouldn't really matter then.
If you're just, like, for instance, I up there did the COD Zombies perks. I only did 6 of them. I know there's a lot more. I'm trying to think, you know, you could, you know, that obviously that's 6 out of 10 right there. Obviously, you're not going to be going back and changing them once you have them. So it's not that big of a deal. You know, just export the STL or save a step file. Or, actually, I don't think they let you export it as a step file with a Fusion personal license. That being said, a Fusion 360. Now, this is going to sound like a lot, but you have to understand for CAD softwares, this is actually cheap. A Fusion 360 license is about $800 a year. You can get a 3-year bundle where it's $2,000 for 3 years. Of course, if you're gonna step, I believe SolidWorks also offers a maker license. That was something like 120 a year.
And you need one of these to make a patch, pretty much, or to make anything really, right?
More or less, yes. There are some free softwares. The problem is they're extremely limited in their capabilities.
So it's almost like the printer is the cheap part.
Yeah. I would say.
Chaotic Furry. Hey, Chaotic Furry, how you doing?
Oh, that reminds me. I gotta share the link with my friends.
So how's it going, everybody? If you're just joining, today is the first time Tyler is using his new K1 Max to print patches. What kind of patches is he going to make today? I don't even know.
I'm gonna do one of these.
He's going to show us all the troubleshooting and any challenges we run into with his new printer. So if you have a K1 Max, if you're trying to print patches, this might be a helpful video for you. If you didn't know, Tyler has a 3D printing business where he makes all types of stuff. You can hit him up, patches, airsoft stuff, toys, tools, whatever you need, he's got them.
All right. So, grab a sip.
What are you sipping on today?
Coffee.
Is it Keurig?
It is. You see, I actually don't care.
I actually have an iced Nespresso right here. We got 11 viewers wondering where that patch is at.
That's a good question. Yeah, I go pretty fast. Fine. Alright, so first thing, I've used Cura for all my previous patches. I just got it because I was recommended at the time. We didn't have anything too fancy yet. I decided for the K1 Max, I'm going to use it as if I had no 3D printing experience at all. I'm probably going to be moving over to Orca Slicer because let's keep it real, it's the best on the market.
Why would you slice up the orcas like that?
I don't know.
Yeah,
really, I guess we could also use Prusa.
It's not really too nice.
So, first thing I'll say, it's a little bit of a
This is the Creality software, right?
Correct.
So now, if anybody's watching this and wondering, they can just use the free Creality software, right?
Yes.
And make stuff from that print store without buying anything, right? Or whatever it is.
Correct. You can, there's websites like Colts 3D, Printables, Thingiverse, and a couple other ones where you can just download things. Let me just make sure I grab the right one. Okay. You can just download files and go from there. Once again, if you're just into this, like you want to make like, I know people do tabletop games like Warhammer. They want to print minis. Although for something like that, you probably want to use a resin printer because it can get much finer details. But if you're, like one of my friends, who also just got a K1 Max. He actually just downloaded Fusion, so he's gonna try and make some of the stuff. But he uses, for the most part, just downloads and prints. I'm gonna rotate this. Of course. One of the things I'll say that's annoying about the Creality Slicer, it doesn't have a simple 45-degree rotate. So you can't just if you just grab it. Actually,
it's 90 degrees.
It will lock. I say corrected. It does lock at that. Okay.
You're wrong.
See, this is one of the things I'm learning.
Mike H asking for a close-up. I gave you one already, but let's I like the orange. The orange looks really nice.
Give the people what they want.
Give another close-up.
Alright, so now I'm gonna set it. One of the annoying things about Creality, the Creality Slicer, is you only have generic profiles and the Creality profiles for the materials. In this case, we're using TPU, tripolyurethane. I use Overture. I've just had good results with them. So, is what it is. You can override the settings, you can save the override. It's mildly annoying, but once again, it's free software. Just download Orca Slicer, honestly. But you know how it be.
That's the vibe.
So first off, we're going to be doing a layer height of 0.2 millimeters. Now, we'll get into it more when we make a proper video. Whenever I'm designing these patches, I always design around a 0.2 layer height. That way you know exactly when you need to change. You can, some of the nicer softwares, you can literally just, when you're extruding, just type 0.2 times 5 times 6. Once again, one of the nice things about SolidWorks is it lets you use equations and preset variables. So if you preset x as 0.2, you just do x3, so for 0.2 times 3.
All right, patches.
Oh,
Patches.
we're doing math. I know everyone.
People want patches. They don't want math.
That's the problem with changing change. Okay.
Right, chat? We just want to see patches. We don't want to hear equations. It's Sunday. We just want to see some nice patches being made.
Let's scroll through. I'm going to leave ironing off because this is the first run. Ironing is very good, especially for patches, because it smooths out all the lines and makes it look much more professional. For troubleshooting, we don't need it. Plus, you have to do more troubleshooting to include ironing. Walls and surface, inner to outer.
Interesting.
Let's make sure. Overhangs. We don't have to worry about overhangs. Alright. Next, we're going to go strength. I usually do a 40% NFL. It's not that big of a deal on what you actually make. I think the default on this is 15% NFL. Top and bottom 3, yeah, that's fine. 3 walls. I always do an alternate extra.
Patches.
Speed, we don't need to touch.
Patches.
Travel speed of 500.
That sounds pretty fast.
Well, that's one of the nice things about Rockham. I do want to.
What do you think is the fastest 3D printer in the world? Is there a clear one?
There's I think MIT has a kind of very experimental one, but it's practically instant. I'm not gonna pretend to know how it works. It's basically witchcraft.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
But
Instant 3D printer.
Yeah. Multi-filament we don't need. Others, I do want a brim. Outer brim.
Yankee no brim.
Yeah. Oh, that actually. Let's see. I gotta check the actual.
What does the brim do?
So I'll get into it when it actually starts printing. It's a little extra lap around it that it does. Helps with adhesion. I usually use it to as like a purge, because if you don't have the greatest first layer, or just like the first contact, I should say, having it run the brim gives it a chance to more work itself out. Now, what's interesting is the generic TPU profile. The bed is at 35 Celsius, and the hot end is at 230. I'm gonna run it on the generic just to see what happens. But in my experience, 230 is very hot for TPU, and I usually run the bed at 35, but that's preference.
So what's the ideal temperature for the patches to be printed at?
Well, the quoted temperature by Overture themselves is 210 to 230. I usually run about 222. That's on my old machine right here. But 230, it can be done. I have a feeling we're going to get a lot of stringing. But also this thing's running pretty fast, so given the flow rate, it might be fine. So now we are gonna have to do a little post-processing on the G-code. Wow, okay, so this is interesting. First thing I want to notice. On here, printing a patch is like a 30, 40 minute event. On here, it's quoting me at 20 minutes, almost on the dot.
It's almost twice as fast.
Yeah, although it doesn't have the...
So that K1 Max is pretty much paying for itself.
Sure. Although, what I've noticed is it doesn't have any brims.
Yankee no brim.
That's one of those things I'm not too familiar with on the Creality slicer just yet.
It says first day using it.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, it's because I have it set to inner brim. It's got to get an outer brim. There we go. Okay, beautiful. Now, one of the things that is a little different from working in Cura to the Creality. In Cura, there's an option for a post-processing, and that lets you go in after the fact, tell it what layers to change. One thing I will say is very nice with the Creality slicer, and this is not exclusive, but it's a nice thing to have, is you can actually add it directly on the layer viewer. So let me see what the actual, I believe there should be 3 bottom layers. 2, 3. Top surface will be red. Okay. So on 6 we do the change. Yep. If you're just getting started in patch making, I would say keep it simple. Have the layer changes be at an integer. So 1 millimeter of orange in this case, then 1 millimeter of black. It just makes life easier for you when you're getting started. When you get into something a little more, can't show that on camera yet. Get something a little more intricate, like 3 layers. That's when you can start. I usually do 0.6. 0.6 for bright colors is the minimum. For dark colors, you can get away with 0.4. Of course, the more layers of the given color, the more it's gonna show. Now I'm gonna go here, add custom G code, and I believe M600 is the Creality's code for tool change or for filament change. You can also just do a pause. Sometimes it's better to do a pause, but I'm gonna use what Creality says is the code. Is it actually?
Well, we'll find out.
Yep. So then I believe I don't know if it re-slices the code or just adds. But, yep. So just adds. Where's mine? Now, one of the things I really like about the K1 Max and a lot of the newer printers is they have onboard storage. With the, with all the enders, you gotta have an SD card. Keep that plugged in. Now, is it the end of the world? No. You're only gonna be printing one at a time. Sometimes you're gonna have to, when you're done, you gotta take it out, plug in the new G code.
But you prefer the USB?
I will say, in terms of convenience, it is very nice because it will, you download the G code to the USB, plug the USB in, and download the G code directly to the machine. Obviously, I've only ran a few prints on this, so I don't have too much experience yet. That's all fuzzies. Actually, I am going to wash this build plate before we start. So, I don't have too much experience with it yet, but one of the things I saw online was Creality, the K1s actually have a very generous onboard storage. So you don't have to worry too much.
What does it have, like 3 terabytes?
Sure. Export. I'm going to export. What's my export option? Export place slice file. One of the things is because I'm doing this all, Creality obviously wants you to run it You know, they want to you to run it through their online system. I understand Bamboo had a little controversy with that. I'm not going to give my opinions on that because I don't really know much about it. But,
I was going to say, Chad, if you're just joining, today's the first day we're trying to print patches on Tyler's new K1 Max. So you can stay tuned for any troubleshooting.
One of the nice things about these newer machines is you just plug in the USB stick, and it downloads the G code onto the printer's onboard, memory, and it's just rock and roll. Now, I need to wash off my build plate. One of the nice things is you can just use soap and water.
Are you doing it in the bathroom?
I don't have a sponge here, so I will return.
I will entertain them while you're gone. So these are all the patches Tyler's made. Comment your favorite below. I kind of like the Call of Duty patches. Why is it not focusing? There you go. Yeah, I like those patches. The COD zombie ones. And the flag looks pretty nice too. Let's see close up. These are all the different patches. Make sure to check out Printed Performance if you want to see any of your patches get made. He's got all types of stuff here. You get pretty much anything. Not a Keurig coffee though. Look at the size of this printer, man. Any minute now, we're gonna see this bad boy printing some patches. Also, comment your favorite color. Looks like he's almost out of white filament. Actually, what is that? That's pretty cool. That's like a rainbow type thing, like a Mistachrome. That's pretty sweet. Oh, maybe that's it too.
So
that looks pretty cool. What kind of filament is that, Tyler? It's like a Mistachrome almost.
So that is the Inland brand rainbow filament. I consider it kind of a reggae filament because it's red, somebody for yellow and a green. While I'm waiting for this to get off, I used it on this one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I must say I very much enjoy it.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Honestly, the part of the fun of it, let me just air this out while I'm doing this. Part of the fun of it is each patch is a little different.
No two 3D printed patches are the same, huh?
Yeah, at least the rainbow filament. If I'm printing something larger, it's kind of fun if I can time it right, where, let's say this changes every 30 meters. If it takes about 30 meters of filament, it'll be solid one color, and the next one will be the different color. But, anywho. So, very important that you wash your bed with soap and water. You can also use isopropyl alcohol. I use that for a lot of my older printers. Fair warning though, I always apply it to the rag and then wipe down. If you douse it in rubbing alcohol, that can actually damage the bed. As with all things, do it in moderation. So, what we gotta do next, I believe it was 35 degrees, so I'll just kick that up to 35. I actually have to bring this up to 240 because I need to remove the roll of PETG that I have loaded in here.
What's the hairdo today, Tyler?
This is the I woke up, walked 7 miles wearing a beanie hairdo.
Nice.
Now, one thing I will say that is very impressive about this, even compared to, my S1s, it heats up fast. I mean, we're already at 150 and it's still climbing. My OG Ender 3, that would still take like 10 minutes. These,
Man, 180, you can see going up in real time. 190.
These things print.
Wow,
I mean,
that's fast.
yeah.
So you'll be ready to print in no time flat.
Yeah. At some point, I am gonna get a meter to put, one of those power monitoring meters, because I am curious how much more power this eats.
Oh, I wouldn't worry about it. Your dad pays the power bill, right?
Exactly. So now that we're up to temperature, I'm going to try out the one of the interesting things on this printer is the retract and extrude for when you're loading and purging. This doesn't let me go. Okay, so now we're at 240. You're gonna tell it to retract. Let's see if it actually pulls it out.
Let's see.
That's not a retraction.
Uh-oh.
It's pushing it out. I don't know if that's part of it. Yeah, that's not.
Oh, it's like almost purging a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It's wasting your filament.
Alright, so I just heard it kick back, so I'm assuming it purges it out and then retracts, which is kind of what I do when I do it by hand, but not exactly, that's not exactly the most efficient way to do it. So, pop the roof. One thing I will say I really like about the K1 compared to some other Core XYs is the roof. It's not really bolted in or anything, it's just, sitting there. Can that be a negative for some people? Yes. For me, in terms of convenience, it's nice.
Till it shakes so hard that the lid pops off.
Hopefully.
Do you think that's possible?
I mean, for it to shake that much,
Something's wrong.
You might have bigger problems. I will say the retract function was pretty okay. I actually don't know if I needed to clip the end. I've always removed the Teflon tube because, of course, I'm a little annoyed with the routing because now I have my spool's a little loose. So you want to kind of treat it like a fishing line, keep it tight. Don't let it all unravel itself. I'll leave this over here for now.
I didn't know you were a fisherman.
I'm a man of many things. Actually, you know what? Oh, shout out to chat. What color should we use?
Yeah, I asked them and nobody said anything, so...
Oh my gosh.
Yep, kind of disappointing. Although I would kind of like to see Tyler going fishing since he's a fisherman now.
We could have a fishing stream.
That'd be sweet.
Well, in that case, if no one says anything, I'm gonna rock some orange.
Yep, we do have 6 people watching and nobody commented what color right now.
Unbelievable.
7 people watching.
We really fell
Well, to
off.
whoever joined, you still have a couple seconds to pick a color.
You can pick any color you want as long as it's orange.
There you go.
Now, of course, one thing I'm still
like
going to whine
orange.
about.
Why does it go in the back? That's a bad design. What are they doing?
Even more importantly, if you come on over here. I know, I'm asking you to get out of your chair. The way it feeds is ridiculous. Especially with the soft filament going through. You have to thread it into this tube, and given that it's a pain in the butt to get back here to begin with.
I can't even see if I'm filming you right.
Yeah.
Looks close enough.
Yep. I can only imagine if you have this on a desk that's right up against the wall. This is miserable.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, you'd have to put the printer sideways, but then you kind of miss out on the fun.
Yeah, that doesn't really look that fun.
Yeah.
Do you look like you're having a good time right now?
I'm definitely having a time.
By the way, shout out Nespresso. They got the best coffee, really.
So, grab a little bit of filament. Now, feeding TPU into the machine is always a question. Because it's so soft, you really can't get enough back pressure to feed it through. So you can kind of forced to use the extrude function.
I don't know. This whole 3D printer thing sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
Would you recommend somebody taking up 3D printing or finding a friend who is already into it so that they don't have to learn it?
Well, and I say this as being the friend who has a 3D printer. I'm not going to go out of my way to make stuff for anyone. Now, granted, if somebody asks me to help them with something, you know, and I have some free time, sure. But, alright. You know, it's kind of like being the friend of the pickup truck.
Yeah, everybody asks you to move stuff.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? So many people asked me to move stuff when I had a van.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, is that purging out? Alright, so that's purging out. If you do this correctly. Yep, okay, there we go.
Yeah, I would probably say it's easier to find somebody that already has a 3D printer than just ask them to print your stuff. Because then you don't have to learn any of this. Wow, look at all that wasted filament. That's tragic.
Yeah. I will say, one of the annoying things about kind of relying on this...
That's a pretty good amount, too.
Yeah. But, you know, I will say is L for Creality. You know, on this machine, on that machine, even on that machine, when you want to jog the extruder, you can put in the exact amount you want. So usually like 10, 20 millimeters, all that I need to load it up. You know, I'm going to be running a purge line anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Do have to lower the temperature before we get started. It'll be bleeding out. The fact that, I mean, granted, could it have the option? Maybe, I don't know. I haven't found it yet. But from what I can see right now, you're just hard locked into whatever distance is preset, which is kind of wasteful.
Is it actually still pumping it?
No, so what's happening right now is the plastic inside the tool head is still melting and just dripping out.
Oh.
That's why I'm dropping it down to like 150. Usually around 150 you can, even, you know, you won't have too much leaking.
So do you think that's something that you'll mention in the review?
Can I mention it? Sure, but this is a thing with all 3D printers. That's more of a, you know, PETG, and even TPU. You kind of stuck with it. You know, you kind of got to deal with that. PLA is a little less likely to droop out, especially if you're around 200.
Mm-hmm.
Comes with the territory.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
I mean, I will say PETG is the worst offender with that. But if you're printing in PETG, you're doing it because you need PETG, not because you want PETG. Although, funny enough, I do prefer printing in PETG. One, because of the mechanical properties, but also, two, is I actually prefer the feeling of PETG to PLA. PLA is very, almost straw-like in its feel. Now, yes, there's many kinds of PLA, and one of the main advantages of PLA is that you can sand and paint it, at which point, you know, it's a different ballgame.
Interesting. So is it patch time now? We've been streaming for 50 minutes and we didn't even get to patching yet. This is a sneak peek into what it's like 3D printing.
I was gonna say
all this prep work.
I'm busy answering questions. I'm busy showing the folks.
Mm-hmm. We got 9 people watching right now.
So, can't show that on screen. So we're gonna go over the USB drive. We are gonna include calibration. TPU is loaded. Alright. It's gonna take one of the things I do like about, let's include calibration while it's doing that. First it's copying it down, it's gonna do its dance. Now that it's copied it, I can just take the USB out and go. So
Nice.
one of the things that makes patch making more accessible to, I guess, the folks who aren't as in deep as I am,
3D printer savvy.
yeah, is you use very little filament. You know, this patch is taking 1.6 meters, which I don't remember the quite conversion, but it's pretty much a 1-to-1 in terms of meters to grams. So, you know, so it's really only using 2-ish grams of filament. Standard roll is 1 kilogram. You know, this roll of black TPU that I have right here, I probably had it for a solid year, and every single, you know, P squared patch I run has to use the black filament, and you know, it's a little low now, but I've been using it for pretty much everything that I do, and there's still plenty left. So if you're just looking for a cost-effective way to get into 3D printing, I would say doing patch making is definitely the most enjoyable. You know, something like this I think is like 50 grams. Still relatively small. You know, you can get I think like 20 of these out of a roll, if I remember, I believe. Yeah, it's good. So one of the big things with 3D printing that gets into cost is when you start going bigger. You know, you can print with very little infill. If you're just looking to make stuff that's pretty, not that big of a deal.
We got Octo saying this is the most boring thing he's watched. Bye bye. Well, bye bye, Octo.
I'm sorry. Do you want us to put like some Subway
This
servers?
is educational.
We can put some Minecraft parkour up here.
I would love some Minecraft parkour, actually. I'd like to see real life Minecraft parkour. Comment below. Almost 30-year-old man tries parkour for the first time. Who wants to see that? Would you say this is an accurate look into the world of 3D printing, though? Because it's not all glitz and glamour.
I mean,
there's a lot of troubleshooting and time, and you might spend 20 minutes waiting for your printer to boot up or something.
Glue stick. I would say it's an. Obviously, you're not going to be sitting around answering questions if you're just doing stuff.
So it would be even more boring, right?
But in terms of just normal DIY stuff, yeah, this is about what it is. You know,
Yeah.
You know, you watch Fast and the Furious, you see that working. You know, working in the. You're not actually doing. You know,
changing gear 47 times at the stoplight.
Yeah, we running or is it
Yeah.
doing calibration? So yeah, it's calibrating. You know, I mean, you know, anything DIY, it's not necessarily glamorous. You know that. Yeah, like I said, like one of the things I mentioned to Chris, you know, is yes, it's kind of interesting seeing whether or not this actually works. But in terms of an actual video, you know, there's a lot of fat to trim.
Yeah, it's just kind of chill 3D printer vibes right here, you know?
It's one of those. Right now we're waiting for it to home itself.
It's going home. I'm going home. I'm going home.
I say one of the interesting things
Tell
about
the world.
we're at 2:30. All right. So right now,
Ooh, we got some fresh glue.
Actually, I'm gonna wait.
Oh man, I was ready to see some glue going on.
I'm excited.
What kind of glue is that? Is that Elmer's glue?
This is the glue stick that comes with the Creality printer. Yeah, but I just normally use Elmer's glue stick, whatever you can get.
You know what would be a cool challenge video is using Gorilla Glue on your 3D printer.
Alright, going hot.
So we are officially 3D printing now?
I have no idea what's gonna happen.
This is our first time.
I can tell you right now that first layer is questionable. I think it'll recover, but a little questionable.
Oh, what's a layer or two missing?
Yeah. I still think 230 is kind of hot. But
We're 3D printing right now.
I'll say I ran the PET-G with the default, I ran the PLA with the default, and they were both adequate. So I would assume the TPU default is good as well.
Can we get your reaction to seeing your new $700 printer? 3D printing patches for the first time?
Uh-oh, we got some,
Oh no.
we got some droop.
We got some trouble.
Alright. Not the first time it's happened to me, so I'm not too worried about it.
I was a 3D printing veteran here.
I wouldn't go that far.
He was there when they made the first 3D printer.
Believe it or not, the first 3D printer was made like decades ago.
I would bet. Probably like the 70s, right? Or something.
Might be. I mean, the first ones, I believe, were UV resin based. I could be mistaken. Or, well, the first commercial versus the first prototype, two different. Let's say running the defaults. Oh, interesting.
We got Dirtbag Dustin asking if you're making a weapon.
No.
No, we're making 3D patches today. Let's show him some of the patches. We're showing you how to make Velcro patches. So these can just go on the back of whatever. Actually, where's the backpack? There's the backpack. Here you go, Dirtbag Dustin. This is for you. You can put these on whatever you want. Also, if you need your own patches made, hit up Printed Performance. So yeah, those are all 3D printed. So you don't have to know how to sew. You can just get your patches made. Nice, man. How much is the supply cost? Dirtbag Dustin asks.
Alright, so we're going to go off just a regular roll of Overture TPU. They are about 25, 30 depending on the one you're getting. You get a kilogram. Now, we're just going to pretend it's a single.
So just for a quick guess, if you had to do, what did you say? 10 cents a patch? 20 cents a patch?
In terms of materials, so if I remember correctly, we'll just say it's like a, because literally,
It's pennies, isn't it?
yeah, it's literally like maybe 5 to 10 cents on materials. Factor, also you got, well, and if you're just doing this for yourself, that's going to be different than if you're doing this commercially. In terms of materials of TPU, let's just say 10 cents, that's fair. Of course, the machine is going to change the cost. You can get away with using a $200 machine for doing this, especially if you're doing it for yourself. The Velcro, it depends. I've recently switched over to a new brand, and I actually really like it. I think I got like 30 feet for maybe $20, maybe a little less. I also use fabric glue and vinyl adhesive.
Oh, Dirtbag Dustin says that's not bad. He wants to get into 3D printing himself.
Yeah, I would say, well, granted, if we're just going off the cheapest option right now. Ender 3, or if you want to get a bamboo A1, I think the A1's only like maybe $150 more. I've had an Ender 3 V2, or not V, well, it was from the V2 generation. This one's an S1. that I've been running a lot of my patches on. I'll be honest, it served me well. You know, like, well, actually, as of right now, every single patch that I've made is on the on this machine right here.
Until today.
Yeah.
That changes now.
Indeed. So we'll say $200 for the machine. If you're just downloading stuff off the internet, actually go to my Thingiverse page under Space Bear V2, which also I believe we linked in our how-to 3D print patches video. I have the Juggernaut file out. I'm gonna add some more of the CAD Zombies ones.
Yep. Dirtbag Dustin, these are all patches as well.
Yeah. You know, I'm gonna add all these CAD Zombies patches on there, so you have some more options. So I would say, I mean, honestly, if you're just getting started, you know, get a roll of black, get a roll of white, play around with, see what you like. Also, because you know, for most multicolor prints that I run, you know, honestly, all the patch, you know, the P2, P2 patches, I run with black. But you know, stuff like all the COD patches are gonna have white on them. You know, playing cards. You know, there's just so much you can do. You know, just find colors that you like. One thing you can do is get a roll of multicolor. You know, I guess color shifting rainbow filament, and then just play around with it. See, you know, really, it's just see what you like. You know, I consider this more of an art than anything mechanical.
Oh, this thing's pretty loud.
Indeed. That's how you get it so fast. We got massive fans. But yeah, so we'll say it's like $50 for materials, $200 for the machine. Then everything else is, you know, more or less open source, available for free. So now, of course, something like this uses, let's round up, say it's 2 grams of filament, you know, count for waste. So, you know, 2 grams across, you know, 2 kilograms. You know,
That's like 500 patches. Or 1,000 patches.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they were 1 kilogram. Oh, it's 2 reels. Okay.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
You know, I mean, that's assuming a perfect 50-50 split. Realistically, you know, I'm using a lot more purple than I am black. But for, you know, if you're doing something like, you know, I got the umbrella logo here, that's a pretty even split. You know, it's just a matter of finding what you like. You know, I would say it's a good, if you're looking into getting more CAD practice, you know, getting practice making your own, a good, well, for me, I did the COD patches. Another good practice would be making playing cards. You know, stuff that's readily, you know, readily known and all that. You have a baseline to reference against.
Yeah, the playing cards actually look pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like the playing cards.
But,
you should make a 3D printed playing card set.
there are 3D printed playing cards, you know, and actually, you know, ones that you can actually use.
Mm-hmm.
If, you know, if it's popular, I might do it.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Eyeballing the machine. Let's see how we're doing. We're 9% in, 9 minutes in. 12 minutes to go. Obviously, a lot of it's going to be.
Oh, so we're about halfway already. The Creality.
Yeah, if you're looking to get into 3D printing, I'd say this is the most accessible. You know, if you're looking into 3D printing as an art form, I'd say this is the most accessible way of doing it. You know, if you're just looking to make toys and stuff, I mean that's a different ballpark.
you know.
What if you wanted to print like a chair or some slides or something? Some
That's a good
flip-flops.
That's a good question. Guess we'll have to stick around.
I would like to see a 3D printed sandal.
Well, see if chat wants it.
Yeah, chat. Comment below. Would you rather have a 3D printed chair or a 3D printed flip-flop?
One thing I will say that's very nice about TPU, tripolyurethane, the material we're using, is it's extremely squishy. So, very rubber, very rubbery and
Squishy,
stuff.
squishy.
So you can do stuff like shoes. Or, well, I will back up. TPU, it is squishy depending on how you print it. Number of walls as well as infill. It also depends on the blend. Like for instance, with the regular Overture TPU, it's very soft, very rubbery. Whereas the Overture high-speed TPU is more like a leather. It's got some give to it. It's still flexible, but it's very stiff. It's very firm. So, one thing if I have any floating around, which I don't, but it's nice for stuff like name tags. I'll do the pink background, the black lettering. What will happen is the brightness of the pink gets contrasted by the darkness of the black, which makes it extremely visible.
Mm.
Yeah, you can see it from across the field. Thing's got some very fast on the traverse.
Like a Chevy Traverse. Super fast.
Oh yeah, Chevy Traverse, known for being very fast. Now the real question is whether or not the M600 command works. Because one of the things that annoyed me with the Ender 5 is that, in theory, when your tool head stops to change out a filament, it stops, it retracts, you swap out the filament, then when you hit play, it's supposed to extrude a little bit to purge out the old stuff, and then go back to printing. For whatever godforsaken reason, on this machine, from the factory, it does the purge as the tool head is moving. So it basically just poops all over the board, and it's messed up prints for me.
It's giving lousy print vibes.
Yeah. Let's say, I believe it was you see right here, because the stuff is stringing around. It's just very, very poor adhesion, obviously, and pitting. And it's just a bad day.
Yep. We got a question from Marcin Sidorsky. Says, "Yo, you good, bro?" I guess so.
You chilling?
Yeah, just some chill 3D printer vibes. So, have we ran into any difficulties so far? First time printing patches?
I will say it's pretty good so far.
Yes, are you printing grinders or something?
Grinders?
Grinders.
Grinders?
We're printing 3D patches today.
Well, I would advise against doing anything food related. Like I'm assuming a pepper grinder or something. Because one of the main issues...
Bold of you to assume that.
I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know what he's talking about. Yeah. Alright, let's see that patch again.
Which one?
The one you just had. Yeah, we got some fresh people in the chat. So we're showing out how to make your own 3D prints.
Yeah,
good luck, guys.
Nice
Thank you.
there.
Thank you, Morrison. Appreciate it.
Shout out to my good friend Eric. He gave me what I call radioactive green. This is, I believe, Gigatron?
It actually looks way more green on camera than it does in real life.
Yeah. I have been printing with it, playing around.
That's pretty cool.
I very much enjoy how bright it is.
Yeah, I like that green actually. That looks nice. That's the filament?
Yeah, it's...
Oh, that's the Aether Blade from Call of Duty, right?
For those of you who play Modern Warfare Zombies, You know, I really enjoyed the Aether blade, so I kind of made my own. You know, just it's a fun little fidget toy. You know, once again being this TPU, you can actually just kind of shove your fingers through it. You know, if you're bored, put a little string around it, spin it. I usually just fiddle around with it. You know, it's fun to do little flips and stuff. Still rocking. Still doing pretty good.
Yeah, we're moving.
Whether or not it's weighted.
Let's see how far ahead. Bit of focus. So when are we going to do the filament change?
That's a good question. So my short answer is I have it set to go at layer 6. Whether or not it acknowledges it, I don't know. Typically because, you know, obviously the black layer starts at 6, but obviously as a percentage of the mass, it's a lot less. So usually, like when it's like 80% done, that's when it goes to do the light filament change. So if I had to, well, we're at 16, 17 minutes now. We got about 4-ish minutes calculated. So I would say in the next few minutes.
We'll be doing a change.
I've never done a filament change on this. Well, a hot swap of filament change on this. So I have no idea what's gonna happen. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that's what the fun is.
Yeah. Like I said.
Oh, we just got an influx of viewers.
Nice.
If you guys are just joining, we're doing the first round of 3D printed patches on Tyler's K1 Max.
Yeah.
Documenting any issues we might run into.
I've had a couple of years working with 3D printers now, but for this K1 Max, outside of the normal homework that I've done, just seeing if it's worth buying, I've tried my best not to, for lack of a better word, learn anything about this, see how intuitive it is for someone who's maybe, you know, used a friend's 3D printer once or twice. Because that's kind of what Creality is marketing these as. You know, they're trying to compete with the bamboo series, which one of the highlights of bamboo's printers is they're not tools, they're appliances. You know, you wouldn't buy a dishwasher and then learn all about what flow rate at what temperature is for best cleaning. You know, you just put the soap in, you hit start. So, especially if you look the way that Creality does, you know, stylized it, we'll say. They're trying to cut in on that market. Well, I can tell you right now, it didn't take the M600 command.
It just totally ignored it?
It totally ignored the M600. So...
So, let me translate that for stupid people, because that's me. So pretty much you told it to stop at a certain time so that you could change the color, and it just totally ignored that, right?
Yep.
So I guess your patch is almost done then. And it's going to be all orange.
Yeah. And I could always, so, actually, I do have one. For those of you who, I wouldn't say are scared, but don't feel like doing a filament change, this is actually the first patch I ever did. And I did this in all purple, and I just Sharpied over it. You know, I would say if you don't want to do a hot swap, just Sharpie it. You know, you can print. Honestly, you can print it and the entire thing in white, and if you just are very careful, you can, you know, use a marker and just paint it.
Pretty much hand painting it.
Yeah.
So why do you think it just totally ignored you there?
Well, it's possible that it doesn't use M600 as a command, which would be very silly considering every other Creality printer uses M600. The slicer could have not accepted the input.
Skibbity slicer.
Unbelievable.
That's not very skibbity of it.
Yeah. No,
Wow.
it is.
So it pretty much just messed up your whole patch right there.
Yeah, my day is ruined. What can I say? While I'm waiting for it, I guess I'll see what happens. I mean, what we could do next is just see if it'll set the pause at height. I don't know. This is one of the things.
This is uncharted territory here.
Indeed. Could I look it up? Possibly. I will say, one of the suggestions is definitely to be just download Orca Slicer. Because once again, Orca, they're top dog right now. In terms of open source, just doing things. Okay. Yeah, so M600 should have kicked in at 16 minutes.
We're way past that.
Yeah.
So we got let down by Creality.
Really disappointing. I am just curious. One thing I will say that is nice about having a current gen printer is I actually get text messages on my phone when it's done.
It does sound pretty nice.
So let's consult Reddit for all things. It's saying, of course, it was gonna say just use Orca, which I don't blame them.
So why would that work? It just knows what to do.
I mean, the short answer is Orca Slicer. They actually, it's made by folks who care more, is what it is. Just for fun. Not gonna do that right now. Just out of curiosity.
Troubleshooting.
Custom details. I'm going to add a pause, which is kind of cheesy as a way to do it, but if it works, it works. We'll go from there. Because I'm curious whether it is the machine not accepting G-code.
So nobody had actual advice for you other than just use Orca?
There were a few other things that were mentioned. One of them I might have to go into the machine settings and tell it that the filament change is M600. But I believe that's on the slicer itself. I could be wrong. But come here.
So we'll try one more attempt.
Yep. We'll try it again with. Now, I do want to delete the actual G-code.
Can I see the patch that you took out?
It's just going to be orange.
So here's the first attempt on the K1 Max printer. This is Tyler's printed performance logo, if you didn't know right there. The color changer didn't work. So attempt number 2, we're going to try one more time today. Some of this outlining should be in black, so yeah, that's what we got. Put this right here. Little decoration. Kind of matches the table a little bit.
Yeah. I'd say it's nice. Something like a pumpkin for a Halloween.
Pumpkin spice lattes.
Yeah. Now,
Man, I'm kind of hungry again.
see if I can figure out this stuff. Give it a second to acknowledge the USB's existence.
.3D printing panes right here. All that time just to get a patch that's the same color. That's the struggle.
Real quick.
So what do you think is the most heartbroken you've ever been after a failed 3D print? Was it the time that you tried printing shipment and it made a mess?
I would say in terms of, you know,
Which that would be a cool test to see if it could print the shipment map from Call of Duty.
say,
That'd be a super cool model to have.
while I think about that, I'm gonna run to the bathroom.
Bathroom break. We got attempt number 2 here. I'll probably wrap it up when we finish up this attempt, everybody. So probably got about another 20 minutes left on the stream. Make sure to comment any questions. What is it doing now?
Set and forget. I'm guessing it is going white right now. Well, it's spinning the nozzle.
.3D printer vibes.
So right now, it's not responding.
Oh, it
Thanks, Creality.
crashed. The whole software crashed.
That's what I get for trying to open up printer settings.
That's so tragic. 3D printer software crashing on you. So if you guys are just joining right now, we're trying to print 3D patches for the first time on Tyler's new K1 Max. And it actually messed up on the first one.
Yeah.
It didn't do the color swap.
Except the 600.
Maybe that's Creality telling you to buy the one that costs twice as much.
Yeah.
So it changes the color for you.
Well, for those of you who are not aware, on pretty much every multi-material system on the market, with the exception of the Prusa XL, because it has multiple tool heads, you can't use TPU, which defeats the purpose. That's kind of because TPU, it's very soft, very rubbery, very elastic, which makes it great for patches, but terrible for automated feeding. So, kind of stuck with it right now.
Tragic.
Preset machine G code.
So is it printing the next attempt now?
Yes. It looks okay.
So it's making the base. The base for the next attempts. So it should stop on its own this time. It'd be a nice little patch.
So, if this is what I... Where'd you go? You went over there. So, looking at the slicer settings, I might have to enable the option for it to even read M600. Which, if that's the case, that's an L on Creality. Because I have to go into the actual G-code setting, or the printer setting to do so. So the manual filament change. Enable this option to omit custom G getting a print. Tool change command, T0. This is useful for manual multi-tool, whereas use 600 pause. So if this works, I'll know that it at least is accepting commands. And I will go from there. I might have to, because at work I ran it on one of these machines, and I believe I had to enable this. But in my opinion,
You shouldn't have to do that.
Yes, M600 is M600, which is the G code for filament change on Creality printers. You know,
So it's kind of lame that you gotta mess around
Yeah.
with it. Interesting.
you know,
Very interesting.
on Cura, it's you just do extensions, post processing, edit G code, and you just you just click change layer at, in this case, 6, and then of course in the G code that it slices will add that in. So if that's what's going on here and I have to enable it, that's it's kind of silly. You know.
I'd have to agree. That sounds stupid.
Yeah. So.
Well, hopefully on this attempt we'll get a nice looking patch. And if not, well, I guess that's bad for us then.
Of course, what would be very funny, and now I don't know if this is going to happen, because this these G codes have the same name, it just reruns the first one, which would be kind of silly, because it should know to override it, because obviously, especially when you're doing prototyping, like is what I mostly use my machines for, you're going to have a file with the same name. I mean, could you, am I going to make a I guess a 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, or when all I'm doing is just changing the fillet?
The fillet.
Yeah.
I could go for some filet mignon right now.
The filet o fish. I heard they brought back the filet o fish.
Oh, I have no idea.
And custom Z code, so I'm going to type M600. Yep, let me just reconfirm. Yep, M600. So, this is Creality themselves telling me M600 is the G code. So, hopefully,
hopefully this will work.
So, are there any takeaways from this for first-time patch printers on a K1 Max?
Now, when you say that, as given my previous history, and then my opinions comparing it to the K1.
Yep.
So right off the bat, it's a little goofy that if I have to enable that if I have to enable the checkbox for it to even read M600, I would say that's very goofy. You know, I mean, granted, you know, I will say in terms of steps, comparing it to Cura, it's not that many more steps. But with Cura, you are simply clicking. You're clicking modify G code and then you tell it what layer. So I mean, right now my only response is it's goofy. If we can get it to work, and it's honestly just that, I will say it's very convenient to use the slider and tell it M600 at a given height. Because that, you know, it's literally go to level, right click, add G code. In that sense, it's very convenient. You know, obviously with my experience using Cura, you have to go into post-processing and then add the additional, you know, little command. Just in my opinion, having to check a box for it to even read the G code that you're putting in is a little ridiculous.
I agree.
I will say, one of the things I may have to work on is the, you know, at least with my older printers, the brims you can kind of just peel off by hand. This is pretty much fused to the material. Maybe instead of a brim, I'll just do a skirt, because one thing that's really nice about these is the layered heat. The first layer comes out extremely smooth. You know, like actually rub your finger across the back.
Mm-hmm. That does feel pretty smooth.
Not this one.
Oh, we got Chevy 5-speed says hi.
Hi.
Hey, Chevy. Here, let me show them on camera. We're 3D printing some patches today there, Chevy. It's Tyler's first time using the K1 Max right there. It's attempt number 2.
Yep. Now, I'm curious if so I just gave it a little snip on the side. And it is peeling off pretty well. So, not the end of the world if I have to give it a little snip, if that means that the overall quality is improved.
Mm-hmm. And we got Chevy 5-speed asking how many or what type of products can you make with it?
Well, in this case, we're doing Velcro patches. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, let's show the bag off. Yeah, so these are all patches that were made on a 3D printer. Yeah, I kind of like the playing card right there, the Ace of Spades or whatever that, Ace of Diamonds.
Yeah. You know, I'm a big fan of Hitman, so obviously I got 8047. Fan of Creepcast as well.
Yep.
Big Resident Evil fan, so I got Umbrella. Hunter, you know, got the license. Got some Perction Cod Zombies. My own personal patch, another personal patch. And then this is just my name for when I'm gaming.
Oh, Chevy says they look very nice.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Although I'm curious.
They do look pretty good.
The name Chevy 5-speed.
What kind of Chevy do you got?
What kind of Chevy?
Yeah.
I'm
While
a
we're
big
waiting
fan.
for this, tell us about your Chevy. He was asking, so you design it on the computer?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If for those of you who are just getting into it, I would recommend either Fusion 360, you know, you get the personal license for free, or SolidWorks Creator license. Now, I will say they are both online only and sometimes kind of but once again, they're free. There are other CAD softwares like I think it's literally called FreeCAD. That's pretty popular amongst the I want free stuff, I want free software community. There are softwares like Tinkercad and Microsoft 3. I think it's Microsoft 3D Maker or something. Don't quote me on that. That you can do some basic stuff with, but they are extremely limited in their capabilities. Like I have a friend who designed some patches, you know. Now, one of the nice things is you can import an SVG file and extrude off of that, but it doesn't let you fillet the edges. And for those of you who are not necessarily in the know, a fillet is a rounded off edge. In this case, I believe this is a 3mm radius fillet.
Think like a filet mignon.
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of because I'm hungry.
So
that Five Guys is not very filling.
I'm sorry to hear that. And I'm all out of protein bars too. So now, just a little side tangent. I've gotten in the habit of including at least a 1mm fillet on anything I'm putting my hands on. If it's something small and you just need it to be clean, 0.5, 0.4. I think you've done 0.2. But in terms of comfort, when you're designing stuff, it doesn't really apply to this, but anything that you're going to be holding, using, like actually, another use case with TPU.
Oh, a homemade hammer.
These mallet heads are TPU. The body of it's PETG. I also put heat shrink on this just for overall comfort. This right now, it actually has a small fillet. I'm actually going to put it on the second version. I'm going to give it more of a fillet because obviously you still feel that it's kind of square. But every single edge of this has at least a 1mm fillet. Now you do that because you don't want to be holding sharp ends, sharp corners and all that. It's really annoying.
3D printed hammer.
Actually,
you ever see that thing when they hit two hammers together and they explode? You should try hitting two 3D printed hammers together and see what happens.
I mean,
who's to say?
I don't want to ruin it for you, but at least with the way I designed it, it's going to be kind of boring. Because you're just going to see two of them smacked together. Because this is more, I consider, an assembly mallet. That's why it has TPU heads. Of course, the TPU is not necessarily squishy, but it does have enough absorption that you're not going, kind of like, it almost functions like a dead blow. Not quite, but...
Do you think it'd be possible to make a sledgehammer with it?
Sure. Now, if you want to see me make one, comment below.
I'd like to see one. I'm commenting.
All right. Well, then I guess we'll make a 3D printed hammer. Or a 3D printed sledgehammer.
Yeah, see what you could destroy with it.
Yeah. I've used this as my assembly mallet. Putting bearings in and all that. I've had this since September of 2023, and it's gotten some decent use. Haven't put it through its full paces yet, but it's nothing special. Just a 3D printed body. I gave it a threaded rod spine, and then the actual. Let me see if I can grab. I got my pliers. The actual heads are removable. Now, is that something on a day-to-day that's going to be necessary? No. But it's one of those nice things to have. Because, these were some of my very first runs, so, they're not good, but, as you can see, peeling off a little. Especially if you're being very aggressive with it. Over time, they're going to wear out. Obviously, you don't want to reprint the entire hammer. Of course, very stiff fit, especially after being used for so long. Just a little indent for the bolt that actually bolts the handle to the head. I mean, well, everything's contained with the threaded rod, but this bolt keeps it aligned. You know, it's very snug fit.
So now is that cheaper than buying a dead blow hammer on your own?
How much is that bolt? Like 10, 20
I
bucks?
don't know, probably.
I mean, in terms of cost effectiveness, I mean, granted, there's always a value in just being able to go out and get the tool. Now, of course, it also requires you to have a 3D printer, but if you already have a 3D printer, might as well.
It's kind of a flex to have your own homemade hammer.
Yeah. All right. Oh, jeez.
Uh-oh.
All right. No, that's good. It's just very. And one of the things I mentioned before, this printer is actually. Get out of the way. This printer is very, very violent. That's one way to describe it. So we're gonna be gentle. Gonna unlock the tool head. One thing I will say I've kind of grown to like is the actual lever on the tool head, as opposed to the spring-loaded. You know, I mean, granted, will it hold up over time versus just a regular spring-loaded tensioner? I'm not too confident. There might be something spring-loaded inside.
Can we get a special edition patch with the rainbow filament instead of the black?
You want rainbow on top?
Yeah.
We'll do it. We'll do
Let's
that
see what it looks like.
We will do that another time.
Why will it cause problems?
Not necessarily, but it's also not going to look that great.
You've tried?
That rainbow is translucent.
Mm.
So what's going to happen is you're not really going to notice it against the orange. Actually, I have one that's a black background with the radioactive green, and it's not look over the tile. You know, it's black base with green top, and you can kind of see, not that one, yeah, that one. It's not the most.
That looks kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like the way it looks. Oh, by the way, shout out to my own page right there. That's my new sticker. So this is the final round of printing here, and you'll have a nice patch. So does it automatically purge when you put the new filaments in? Or you have to do it?
Well, it kind of depends on what it accepts. I'm feeling some resistance, but I don't know if that's from yeah, okay. I'll pop the shark right out. Well, I don't know if this holds temperature at. Level resistance. So hopefully, with all that resistance, that means it's actually biting. Like I said, it's not the greatest. So turn on the screen. Forget refill. Alright. I've refilled it. So okay, that's good. It's bringing me to the page. So we're gonna 240 is very hot for this. Wow. So we're going to extrude. Let's see if it runs. Okay, so it's idling at 140, which is, or actually I don't know if it's idling at 140 or it's dropping, because as a safety precaution, when the printer pauses, it will turn off, it'll stop heating the tool head. So that's kind of what I was doing right now. But luckily, being that I pulled the filament out, it's giving me, oh geez. That's the actual main fan blowing on the tool head. Looks like it's
purging out the orange. Yep, we got black. Once again, it's purging a lot, in my opinion. Now, granted, I know there's some people who do very intricate who have to purge a lot. That being said, for what I do, about 20 millimeters of purge is plenty. So, alright. Reloaded. Gonna hit resume. Now it's gonna go back to 230. I guess the real question is what it does from there.
What it do though?
Of course. Uh-oh. That's fine. It's got a little bit of stuff coming out. Alright. So, got a little bit of a booger. Which I'm not too happy with. That's probably just residual from the loading. That being said, it at least accepted the pause command and it let me change. So, not the end of the world. I'm going to let it ride. And then I'm going to try it once more with the actual M600 and filament swap enabled. Like I said, this is one of the humps you got to get over when trying something for the first time. Very interesting tool path it's taking. Will they go there? I don't know.
It's going. It's going. Proud printer daddy? Or not? Sad printer daddy. Disappointed.
I'm a little disappointed, like I said, with
I don't blame you.
although I blame Creality's slicing software more than the machine itself. I will say this top layer looks pretty good. You know, I'd say ironing is definitely going to clean it up. But I will say I am impressed with the out-of-the-box quality. Just rubbing this, the base layer, this is extremely smooth.
Do you think you'll be using this more for making patches?
So that comes the next question, because being that this printer is so much better with, mechanical stuff, printing PETG, it's probably what its main focus is going to be. And for even, with having a 5, the 3 is kind of my playing around printer. So it's one of those questions of, is it worth putting, carving out time to use it on here versus on there? That I don't know yet. But I will cross that bridge when I get there. I mean, obviously, a lot of these patches I'm giving out for free. So I'm not going to be going out of my way to print them up. My rule of thumb is if I'm not using the machine for anything, I will print a patch. Now granted, this machine is something like 2 times faster with CPU, and it seems to have as good, if not better, quality, as long as I can get the filament change sorted out a little bit better. So
That's good.
Realistically, if I can, once again, this has a 300 by 300 build volume within reason.
So you can make one gigantic patch on this.
If I really wanted to, I could do one gigantic patch.
Should do a 12 by 12 patch.
Yeah, I was like, comment below if you want to see that. If I was guesstimating, that would probably take I'd say at least 6 hours. Because what I would do is on the XY, I'd scale it up, but on the Z, it stays the same because the filament changes don't change.
Yep.
Yeah. Or the filament heights don't change. But definitely, I will say, despite the issues, I am pleased with it. I will have to tune it a little bit because, as you can see, aside from the booger, that when we're changing, the very high temperature causes a lot of stringing, and that's solved by 1, lowering the temperature, but by 2, increasing the retraction. I think like the default retraction is something like 0.6 millimeters, which per TPU, especially with, a lot of changes, is not great. As you can see, it's got the little hairs.
It's a little fuzzy.
Yeah. So I think if I can get the M600 command to work, it will be very nice. I would say definitely if I'm getting an order for patches, it's going on this machine. Honestly, one of the reasons why I could justify buying this machine was because I was getting more frequent requests. And just the time saving alone by running this would make it worth it, but the increase in quality also makes it worth it. One of the kind of interesting things I learned about from the manufacturing world, a hot CNC machine, whether it's run by just some guy or a grandmaster, within reason, there's a lot of troubleshooting. Oh, looks like we're finished. As you can see, it's very hairy.
Fuzzy.
Yeah.
Looks like my face.
That's it. A hot CNC machine is a hot CNC machine. No matter who's running it, there's a certain level of quality you're going to get and precision. The main difference between a high-end brand and a low-end brand is their tolerances and how many of those parts they're willing to throw out to maintain those tolerances. And the reality of being a consumer is you're paying for all of the parts that they also throw out. So if they make 1,000 and they throw out 50, they're gonna bake that into the price of the current product.
Oh, we got a question, Tyler. Bada Bing is asking, what should I do? I got a tenant with 4 kids not paying rent.
I am not a legal expert, so I
Well,
consult your lawyer.
We could give you a 3D printed patch if you'd like.
Might be a little bit of a pain in the butt to rip this off. Of course, that's not a bad thing, because that just means we have great layer adhesion. I'm actually going to take the bit off. So this one. Yeah, I didn't apply glue for this one. Of course, one of the funny things with TPU is because it's flexible, you can't really do the old popping off trick.
Now do the boogers come on?
So
Bada Bing says bad answer. Well, that's the best answer we could give you, Bada Bing.
yeah, I'd say, Bada Bing, if you have a tenant, I would assume you're familiar with I guess what would be residency laws, rental laws.
Who knows?
So really, if you don't know the answer to that, you shouldn't be renting. Actually, also gonna grab the wipe line. It's kind of hard to get the wipe line off because it's so thin, but if you let it stack up over a little while, you can peel it off. Nice. Gonna leave this at 35.
Well, I think that about wraps up the stream then, right, Tyler? Our showing off the.
Well, first thing I'll say, this booger. Okay, you know.
Oh,
So
the booger did come off.
The booger you can peel off.
Save that for later, like any good booger.
I will say, I do need to run this again, so you're welcome to stick around if you gotta head out.
Yeah, I got some Sunday errands to do, so.
I'm gonna run it once more with the hopefully functional M600 command.
So this is what we got. Yeah, it is fuzzy.
I will say it's not horrible. If anything.
Yeah.
You know, that said,
Flexy.
one of the things I need to do a little more homework on with this machine is the actual, you know, as the machinist would say, speeds and feeds. Because I used to have, you know, little fuzzies like this. You know, little fuzzies like this on this machine. And honestly, really all it took was one afternoon just constantly running this, but tweaking the you know, the temperatures is going to be a big factor, and the retraction rate. You know, obviously the easiest way to remove that is the retraction rate, but the more retraction you do, the more time it's going to take. You know, now obviously the other option is lower the temperature, because that's going to lead to less, you know, oozing. You know, but you know, there's only so low you can go. You know.
Yep.
Export plate slice file.
Well, alright everybody, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed seeing us troubleshoot Tyler's new K1 Max for printing patches. So thanks for all your wisdom today, Tyler. And if you guys got any questions, make sure to comment below. And he'll do his best to answer it. Also, make sure to comment what you want to see in the next video. I'm hoping he makes some 3D printed slides so we can go for a walk in them.
Walk a mile in the slides.
Yep, that's the goal. Well, alright everybody, thanks for watching. We're going off.